A fairly lacklustre open. Do you think we'll get any momentum? We've had some fairly strong comments from BHP Billiton this morning, which could indeed give us some support.
Maura, I think it's going to be a shaky day on the Australian share market, despite BHP coming out to reaffirm its full-year forecast. We've seen the shares open up just 0.1%, so looking quite flat on the open. We've seen the SPI futures up by 0.1% as well, or 4 points. So it's not going to take much to move this market, especially seeing that we're seeing extremely light volumes. On Monday, we traded $3.7 billion worth of stock. Yesterday, $3.5 billion worth of stock. So it's not going to take much to move this market. Yesterday we saw the Australian market closing at 4,013, so we are precariously close to that 4,000 psychological point mark. And in the past, what we have seen is some strong buying coming at the up at that 4,000 point level. But of course, with the EU summit on Thursday and Friday, we may see some of those buyers being sidelined until that summit is over. Overnight in the US, it was a positive lead. We saw the S&P 500 up by 0.5%, and that was on the back of some better housing data. In fact, we saw discretionary as well as energy stocks leading the gains there. But I guess the thing that may weigh our market down today are the concerns around Europe. We saw another soft session in Europe, the Spanish bond yield rising to 6.9% for the 10 years, and we also saw reports that Merkel, when talking to her own party, said of fiscal union that it wouldn't happen as long as she was alive. So those comments certainly don't help ahead of the EU summit. If we have a look at domestically on our market, one stock that looks to do well is News Corporation. We saw News Corp rising by 8.9% in the US, so expecting a strong day here in Australia. In terms of the American depository receipts ADR performance, we did see BHP up by 0.6%, but it was Telstra and Westpac which outperformed. Telstra was up by 1.8%, Westpac up by 1.5%. So it could be that investors once again seeking those safe havens of high yield and defensives.
As in focus today, all media stocks really coming to the forefront of investors' sights. What are you watching in particular? Just to add, 10 Network also appointing Siobhan McKenna to its board this morning, that release coming out as well. So news from the whole sector continuing to flow quite solidly today.
It is an exciting time for the media sector, and it is likely to be a time of change over the next 12 to 18 months. And it's quite interesting how the markets really categorise these media companies into the bad, the average and the excellent. And if we have a look at that bad factor, I guess the market's still concerned about possible profit warnings or capital raisings coming out of some of the media stocks. And the three that come to mind are Fairfax, APM Media as well as Seven West Media. And these shares have been under a fair bit of pressure. So these are the ones that the market is quite concerned about. Middle of the range, you have those companies which are either a takeover target or are looking at unlocking value. And so these are stocks like 10, Southern Cross Media, News Corporation, as well as Consolidated Media, which have average type of valuations. And then, of course, you have the very strong valuations. And these are the new media type of assets that have been performing very well over the last few years. These are stocks like Seek, realestate.com, car sales, as well as TradeMe. So altogether, I guess the market really categorising some of these media companies, and it has been an exciting time, lots of changes. If we have a look at News Corporation, the reports are that it is looking to split into its publishing assets and its entertainment assets. But if we have a look at the underlying business of News Corporation, it derives more than 75% of its operating profit from two areas, and that's cable as well as entertainment. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two areas are going to be split, whether it is into two divisions or we're going to see the bulk of the operating profit going into one division and then seeing some of the publishing and the older assets going into another division. But altogether, that news about the split is all about unlocking value, so it should be good news for News Corp shareholders. And of course, we're still watching Seven West Media. It looks like a lot of short positions going in on the stock yesterday. A change of guard, a new CEO, Don Volti. The market not certain about this. We saw this stock with a profit downgrade back in April. It's still a very difficult media environment, so I guess not a lot of confidence, even though Don Volti has been an extremely good CEO for Woodside Petroleum. I guess there's concerns about him leading a media company. So a very quickly changing media landscape, a very exciting one, and the market really categorising these media stocks into the bad, the average valuations and the premium valuation.
Benchmark index, Buru Energy coming on board. Good news for the stock, given, of course, the funds that do indeed follow and track the benchmark.
Buru Energy is going to join the ASX 200, the benchmark index, and good news for the stock. And I guess this is a stock that a lot of shareholders have been very happy about. It's been bucking the overall softness in the market. And in fact, over the last year, if we just have a look at the stock price, it's done extremely well. Around about a year ago, it was trading at 60 cents. Now it's about the $3.30 mark. So we've seen an increase of more than 400% over the last 52 weeks. Now, if we have a look at this business, it is an oil and gas explorer, mostly involved in the Canning Basin in WA, but I guess with that strong performance means that it's bulked up its market capitalisation and it's now in the top 200 stocks in Australia. Of course, this is a result of replacing Gloucester Coal. Gloucester will now be trading as a merged entity with Yancoal going forward. And I guess just a heads up for anyone who is interested in coal assets, if you do buy Gloucester Coal today, you do have the option to buy it with the contingent value rights, which means that it's protected up to an amount of $3 if the merged entity trades below $6.96. So today's the last day you can do that. So anyone interested in coal assets may want to look at that to get, I guess, a bit of protection in terms of the merged entity. But next week we should see Gloucester as well as Yancoal trading as that merged